Okay, so for this project you are going to need a variety of colours of yarn. So starting off, I'm going to be using this yarn from, I believe it's King Cole or Jamesy Brett, and it's the Heather yarn. I think it's in the colour Bramble, and I'm just going to be using the green section of this because I really liked the kind of mixture of the green and cream running through it. Obviously though, if you just want to use like a plain green colour, then you can. This is going to be for the leaves and the stems and everything like that. And then for my first rows, I'm going to be using 2 shades of pink that are kind of similar. And the reason why you want them to be kind of similar is because it creates a nice transition into from the center of the rows to the outer section. If you use like kind of 2 shades that are similar like this, it creates a really nice like ombre effect. So I'd say for each rose you probably will need about 25 grams to 50 grams of yarn of each colour. And for my other rose I'm going to be using this more like dusky deep pink. And then for the daisies I've got this kind of butter yellow yarn. This is also double knit acrylic and a white double knit acrylic. And then I'm also going to be using my slightly deeper shade of pink for the berries as well. For this project I'm going to be using a 3mm hook, and you'll also need some scissors, a stitch marker, some measuring tape, a hot glue gun, and you're also going to need some wire. This is just some gardening wire, but you can use literally any kind of wire you want. Okay, so I'm going to be starting off with the green sepals, and this is going to go underneath the rose and kind of like encase it. So you want to take your green yarn and just make a slip knot. And I'm going to start off with a chain 3, and then I'm going to slip stitch into my 3rd chain like that. And then we're going to start off with 5 single crochets into the ring. So just separate that ring, insert your hook into that ring, yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through 2, and that is your single crochet. So I'm going to do 5 of those in total. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm just going to draw the hole in by pulling on the tail. So I'm now just going to place my stitch marker into that 5th single crochet, and I'm going to start my next round, which is round 2. So for round 2 I'm just going to make 2 single crochets into each stitch, which is going to bring the stitches up to 10. So I'm going to find my first one, so that's right here. I'm going to insert my hook, I'm going to loop the tail over so that I can continue drawing that hole inwards, and I'm going to do my 2 single crochets into this stitch. That's 1, that's 2, and then I'm going to do 2 in each stitch again, 1 and 2, just repeating that all the way around. And now I'm going to work on my 3rd round, which is going to be a sequence of 1 single crochet into the 1st stitch and 2 single crochets into the 2nd stitch, which is also referred to as 1 single crochet increase, and I'm going to repeat that sequence all the way around. So 1 single crochet into the 1st stitch and 2 into the 2nd. Just repeating that all the way around, which is going to bring my stitches up to 15. Okay, and now this is going to be my 4th round, which is going to be 2 single crochets and then an increase. So 1 single crochet into the first 2 stitches, so that's 1, and into the 2nd stitch, that's 1, and then into the 3rd stitch 2 single crochets. So this is going to be referred to as 2 single crochets and then increase. I'm going to repeat that all the way around, and I'm going to have 20 stitches by the end of the round. Okay, so I'm now going to start my next round, which is round 5, and I'm going to be repeating a sequence until I have 5 leaves in total. So I'm going to start off by, into my first stitch of this round, I'm going to do a single crochet, a half double crochet, a double crochet, and then I'll chain 2 and slip stitch into the second chain, and that's all in this first stitch. So I'm going into my first stitch with a single crochet, and then I'll do a half double crochet, so I'll yarn over, insert my hook into that same stitch, yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through those 3 loops. So that's your half double crochet. And then for your double crochet, again, yarn over, insert your hook into that same stitch, yarn over and pull through, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through the second 2 loops. And that is your double crochet. And now I'm going to chain 2, so 1 and 2, and I'm going to slip stitch into the second chain from the hook, and I like to go into the bump right behind the second chain right here, and then just make my slip stitch. So I'm going to yarn over and pull through, and then pull that first loop through the second to make your slip stitch. Okay, so we've done one half of the leaf, and now we're going to do the other half. So into the next stitch I'm going to do a double crochet and a half double crochet. So yarn over, insert my hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Into that same stitch a half double crochet, so yarn over, insert your hook into that same stitch, yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Okay, into my next stitch I'm just going to do a single crochet, and then into my next stitch, and this is to complete the leaf, I'm going to do a slip stitch. Okay, so that is going to be your sequence, and you're going to repeat that all the way around until you have 5 leaves. So I'll just do one more for you. So into this next stitch I'm going to do single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, and then I'm going to chain 2 and slip stitch into that back bump. So single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, and then chain 2 and slip stitch into that back bump, that second back bump. Okay, now I'm going to complete the other half of the leaf. So into the next stitch a double crochet and a half double crochet, into the next stitch a single crochet, and then into the next stitch a slip stitch. So now you just want to repeat that sequence all the way around until you have 5 leaves. Okay, so you should end with a slip stitch into where that stitch marker is, and you should have sort of like a star shape. And now you just want to chain 1 and fasten off, and I've kind of reached the end of this yarn anyway, so I'm just going to pull that through, but you can just chain 1 and fasten off. And this is what the sepal looks like. So I'm now going to be making the rose, and I'm going to show you the rose where we add 2 colours, and then for the plain rose, which is just a single colour, you obviously don't need to switch colours, so you can just go straight into your row where you make the actual rose leaves. But for the one where we want to make it look ombre, you want to take your paler colour and make a slip knot. And it's important that you use the paler colour because this is going to be the row that is showing on the outside, if that makes sense. So you don't want your darker colour to be showing on the outside, and your first sort of few rows are going to constantly wind around the rows, and so they're always going to be on display, so you don't want your darker colour to then end up on the outside. Your darker colour is simply only going to go on the rose leaf section. So for my first section for the rose, I'm just going to basically make a chain of 50 plus 1, and if you want to make your rose bigger, you can do a different amount of chains. You just need to make sure that it's a multiple of 5 plus 1. And we're going to be starting off with just 2 rows of single crochet. However, again, if you want to make your rose bigger, you can do more rows of single crochet than I am. So I'm just going to start off with a chain of 50 plus 1. once you have your chain of 50 plus 1, we're just going to basically do 2 rows of single crochet, and I like to start my first row in those back bumps. So I'm just going to flip the chain over and you'll see these horizontal back bumps, and I'm going to find that second back bump and make a single crochet into that back bump, and then I'll just make 1 single crochet into each back bump all the way across, giving me 50 in total. Okay, so I've just completed my first row of single crochet, and now I'm going to start my second row. So I'm just going to chain 1 and turn the work, and I'm going to weave in this end that I've got right here as I go. So in every stitch I'm going to loop the end over the hook first and then insert my hook into the stitch, and I'm just going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across. So I'm just going into my next stitch, make a single crochet, then loop the tail over again, insert my hook into the next stitch, make my single crochet, and as you can see this is now weaving that end in. And when I get to my final single crochet is where I'm going to switch colours to my darker colour, so I will meet you back once I reach that last stitch because I'll show you how to switch colours for that. Okay, so once you get to your final single crochet, you want to insert your hook into that stitch and yarn over and pull through, and then before you yarn over and pull through your last 2 stitches you want to grab your darker pink and make a slip knot. And then you want to pull that slip knot through those 2 loops on the hook to complete that single crochet. So this is going to switch colours nice and neat, and now we are ready to start our third row, which is going to be the rose leaves. So I'm going to basically just chain 1 and turn the work, and you can do your pink, your darker pink rose leaves for as many kind of amounts as you want of the sequence that we're going to do. However, I recommend that you do it for about 1/3 of the way of the row rather than, you know, halfway, because that gives it a bit more of a realistic look of the ombre pink rose. For the rose leaves, I am going to start off with my kind of round leaf, and that is going to be in the first stitch a half double crochet. So I'm going into my first stitch, yarn over, inserting my hook into that stitch. I'm going to weave these ends in as I go, both of them, and then yarn over and pull through. 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Just pull those ends in. And now I'm going into my next stitch with a double crochet, so yarn over, insert my hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Now for my next stitch I'm going to do a treble crochet and a double crochet. So I'm going to, instead of yarning over once, I'm going to yarn over twice, insert my hook into the stitch, yarn over again and pull through, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over and pull through this first 2 loops again, and then yarn over and pull through those last 2 loops. So it's like the double crochet, but you're doing an extra kind of yarn over and pull through loops, if that makes sense. Into the same stitch I'm going to do a double crochet, like that. So I've got 2 stitches in 1 stitch here. Into my next stitch I'm going to do a half double crochet, and finally, to complete this round leaf, I'm going to do a single crochet into the next stitch, like that. So in total, your round leaf should take up 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I'm going to show you the next leaf, which is the pointy leaf, and I'm going to do a single crochet and a half double crochet in the same stitch for the next stitch. So single crochet and half double crochet, and then into the next stitch 2 double crochets. That's 1 and that's 2, and then I'm going to chain 2 and slip stitch into that second back bump from the hook, like that. So this is very similar to what we were doing for the sepal. and then I'm going to do another 2 double crochets into the next stitch. So that's 1, that's 2, then into the next stitch a half double crochet, and into the next stitch a single crochet, like that. So now I'm going to alternate between the round leaf and the pointy leaf until I reach about a third of the way. So I might only have to do maybe one more of the round leaf, and then I will just be switching back to my pink colour, or the lighter pink colour I mean. So I'm just going to do one more of the round leaf because that's going to bring me to 1/3 of the way. So I'm just going to do my round leaf. So that's a half double crochet, a double crochet, and a treble crochet. Oh, sorry, a double crochet, and then a treble crochet and a double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet as well, and then a half double crochet into the next stitch. My last stitch is going to be a single crochet, and I'm going to switch colours here. So I'm just going to insert my hook, yarn over and pull through. I'm going to drop the pink yarn and pick up the baby pink and yarn over and pull through those last 2 loops with my new colour. Okay, so now you can just cut the darker pink, and you can weave your end in as you go, or you can just like weave it in afterwards if you find that easier. And now I'm going to complete the sequence again. So my next leaf is going to be the pointy leaf, and then I'll do the round leaf and the pointy leaf and the round leaf all the way until the end of the row. So I'm going to come back once I've finished my row, and then once I get to the last stitch I'll just chain 1 and fasten off. Okay, so this is what your rows should look like. So essentially I've just done about a third of the way of that darker pink, and then the rest of the way I just did the original baby pink we used. So as you can see, when you roll it up, or when you will roll it up later on, like this, your darker pink is on the inside only, and your lighter pink stays on the outside like this. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make the daisy. So you'll want to take your yellow yarn and your hook, and you just want to start off with, again, a chain 3 and then slip stitch into that 3rd chain. And into the ring we're going to work 5 single crochets, and into the 5th single crochet we are going to be switching colours to white. So I'll just do my 4 single crochets to start, and then I'll show you how we switch colour. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now take your white colour and make a slip knot. And then we're going to start our next single crochet, so that's our 5th one. Insert your hook into the ring, yarn over and pull through, then pick up your white yarn and place it on the hook and pull through your yellow stitches with your white yarn, just like we did for the rows. And now we're going to be working the white petals. So we're starting off by making a slip stitch into our first stitch. So just slip stitch like that, and then we will start our first petal. So we're going to chain 2, and we're going to make 2 half double crochets into this stitch, the same stitch, and I'm just going to weave in my little ends into that stitch as well. So 2 half double crochets, so that's 1, that's 2. And then to finish this first petal I'm going to slip stitch into the same stitch, like that. So for the rest of the petals, that is the next 4 petals, we're going to do something slightly different. We're not going to chain 2, I'm just going to go straight into the next stitch, and I'm going to do 3 half double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to finish this petal by doing a slip stitch in the exact same stitch. So the second petal is the one we're going to be repeating for the rest of the petals. So I'm going to do 3 half double crochets into the next stitch and a slip stitch. So just a reminder, into the next stitch, 3 half double crochets, and then a slip stitch into the same stitch. So I'm just going to do that 2 more times so that I have 5 petals. For my last petal, instead of slip stitching into the same stitch, I'm going to slip stitch where we did that first white slip stitch. Like that. And that's just going to join everything together, and then you can just chain 1 and fasten off. So now you can just weave in your last little end, and you can make as many of these as you want. I did 5 for each stem, so as you can see I've just kind of scattered them randomly, but yeah, you can do as many as you want, but I did 5. So the last thing I'm going to show you is how to make the berries, and the berries are nice and simple, and I'm going to be doing pink berries and white berries, so I will just show you the pink berries. And again, you want to make a slip knot and chain 3 and then slip stitch into the 3rd chain. So 1, 2, 3, slip stitch into that 3rd chain, like that, or make a magic ring if you prefer that. And I'm going to do 6 single crochets into this ring. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to be doing after this 2 rounds of single crochet, so I'm literally just going to be doing 1 single crochet into each stitch for 2 rounds, so I'm not increasing, I'm just literally keeping it as 6 stitches. So I'm not going to place my stitch marker because I can just count 12 stitches and then I'm finished. So once you've done your 2 rounds of single crochet, you then just want to cut the yarn with a tail that is sort of long enough that you can wind it around. So I've just done kind of this amount. You just want to pull that tail out, and now we're just going to wind the tail around each stitch. So you want to insert your hook into the next stitch on the round like this, and you just almost want to yarn over and then just pull that yarn through the stitch, so just like weave it through. And then you want to do that again into the next stitch, so insert your hook into that 2nd stitch, yarn over and pull that thread through like that. Again into the next stitch, insert your hook, yarn over and pull the thread through, and you just want to keep wrapping the yarn around until you've done it 6 times. So that's 3, or is it 4? I think it's 4. 4. So it's 5 and last one 6. So once you've done that, you've created like a drawstring, and now you can just pull gently on the tail and it should draw the yarn in. And then you just want to weave your end in, and I like to kind of go downwards. So I'm just inserting my hook anywhere on that berry, making sure that my hook comes out onto the other side where that tail is, and then I'll just pull the thread through to weave it in, and then you can just cut the yarn. And then you can just kind of mould it with your hands to create that more circular shape, sort of like this. And now I'm just going to show you how we make the kind of sepal base section underneath the berry. So again, take your green yarn, and you want to make a slip knot again, chain 3 and slip stitch into the 3rd chain. 1, 2, 3, and then slip stitch into that 3rd chain, like that. And for this stem kind of base section, I'm actually going to do 8 single crochets because I want it to kind of have a little bit more room to go around the bottom of the berry. So instead of 6 single crochets, I'm going to do 8. And then just draw that hole in. And I'm just going to slip stitch into that first stitch to kind of join it into a circle, like that. And then you can just pull that yarn out and cut the yarn. I'm just going to weave that end in to the back of the work. and that is literally how you make the berries. So again, you can make as many of these as you want, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to assemble everything in the next clip. Okay, so now I'm going to be showing you how I assembled everything. So this is how I made the stem section. So this is the wire. Essentially, I just did a length of wire that was 12 inches, and then I folded that 3 times, so that I technically had a wire of 36 inches, and I folded it 3 times, and then I just like twisted it together to make a very strong cable type thing. So after that, I then just heated up my glue gun and I started to glue a small section of the edge of the rose and then roll it up. And I just kept doing it in small sections so that I could do it effectively. And as you can see, when it rolls up, it looks just like a rose, and I just did this all the way to the end. Okay, and then I basically just took the green thread, which was still attached to my yarn ball, and I threaded that through the sepal, and this is just going to help attach when we like assemble the stem later on. So you basically just want to have that thread poking through, and then you want to glue the wire and press the rose on top of it so that the rose is then glued on top, and then you can just glue all around the sepal, and that is just going to be pressed onto the sides of the rose. Then after you've done that, you can just twist the yarn tail that is hanging below the sepal around the stem to cover all of the wire. So for the daisies, I basically cut these shorter pieces of wire and I tucked it into the yellow section at the back of the daisy, and then just folded it in half, and then I twisted the wire around each other to make it nice and stable. And I did this for every single daisy, and I wanted them to be like shorter wires so that I could kind of have them poking out of the main stem. So I'm just twisting the wires all around to make sure that they're nice and sturdy. Then I just glued the base of the daisy, and then I just pressed a small section of my yarn tail to where that glue spot is, and then I just twist the yarn all around the daisy stem and make sure that I glue the edge as well right at the end, and wrap the yarn around it so that the bottom part is covered. And then I just did this for every single daisy so that I had all of these kind of mini stems. Then you want to wrap your first daisy right at the top of the stem and start wrapping that yarn around that first daisy, and then once you've gone down enough with that yarn wrapping around the wire, you can then grab your second daisy and just literally wrap the yarn around the daisy and the main stem wire to kind of attach them. You want to do this nice and tight, and then I just repeated this all the way down, so I'm just like grabbing daisies randomly and then wrapping the yarn around them all the way to the bottom and then just gluing that bottom edge. So for the berries, I cut a very small amount of wire and then folded it in half and then twisted it, and then I shoved the top of the wire like where the berry is, so I just basically placed the wire inside the berry, and then I took the base of the berries, that green circle that we made, slotted it on the wire, and then I glued the berry to the base so that the berry was kind of like stuck on there, if that makes sense. And then just like I did for the daisy, I just attached a little bit of that green yarn tail and then just started wrapping it around the berry stem. And then to kind of make that berry cluster, I basically placed a little bit of glue on the top of the wire first, then started to wrap the green tail around it just to kind of get it going, and then I decided to place the berries individually. So I recommend kind of gluing one and wrapping the yarn around one by one. So I did that first with a white berry, and then I wrapped the yarn around a few times to secure it, and then I added a second berry, so on until I had this nice bunch. And then I just stacked the extra berries I had all the way down the stem, just like I did for the daisies. And this is what the final result is looking like for this gorgeous rose bouquet. I hope you all enjoyed this project, and let me know what projects you'd like to see me make next, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys.